Hi there and welcome to Flipping Heck Business, Flip Learning for AQA A-Level Business Studies. This is Unit 2, video number 6, and in this video we're going to be looking at stakeholder mapping. So what you kind of need to know, you need to know the importance of stakeholders, so their actual importance, what kind of needs they would have, the mapping itself, and then their influences, so like is it internal, is it external, and of course stakeholder management. So stakeholder importance and needs. I mean, like, for starters, you need to really think about, any business does need to think about what is actually going on with its stakeholders. Stakeholders, of course, being people that have a direct interest in the company or in the events that are going on or decisions that are being made by a company. Now, really, we look at two types of stakeholders here. We've got primary stakeholders, which are directly affected by business decisions. So it's like managers, employees, CEOs, owners, suppliers, shareholders, etc. Or you've got secondary stakeholders, so not really tied financially or direct relationships with the business, but they can still have that influence. So you look at local communities, pressure groups, local shoppers. Well, they might not actually be shopping in your shop or in your retail outlet or using your business, but they might still be able to influence people who do further down the line. So if they write complaints letters, or if they complain to your local council or your local government, then that can have a real effect on your business as a whole. So one way of combating this is to have a look at the stakeholder mapping. So this basically allows companies to analyze the position of stakeholders as part of the decision-making process. So in other words, they can look and go, okay, so who actually has the most power and who has the most influence, and how should we therefore actually consider them in our decision-making process? So it allows them to sort of think about, well, what kind of influence are they going to have on us? And then using this method, they can analyze different stakeholders, and it allows managers to consider important questions. So whether they should include particular stakeholder groups in decisions, whether they should consult them on their views, whether they should just ask them for advice, or do they need to have much more of a hands-on, okay, so here's some ideas that we want to do, what do you think, and get feedback from the public. So this is what a stakeholder map looks like. So it's fairly similar to Boston Matrix. It's just the general sort of interests of stakeholders along the bottom, and then influence and power of stakeholder along the top. So if we look here, down at low interest of stakeholder and low influence or power of stakeholder, we've got low priority. These people are like the critics. So low power, less interested, only need minimal effort to actually monitor with them. We call these monitors, and you would just communicate general, keep them updated, and then aim to try and move them maybe to the right, so maybe keep them informed, have a bit more interest, but we don't necessarily going to see more power. Then we've got blockers. So these are people who are high power but less interested. Now, these people, you need to kind of engage and consult them. You want to maintain a level of interest, keep them actually quite satisfied with what you are actually doing, just in case they might become more interested later. Now, these people can just stop a project, and they're not going to be too tied into it, so they're not really going to feel guilty about it either. So think along the lines of local councils. Think along the lines of government agencies. So they might not directly work with the company, but they can put a kibosh on any kind of ideas that you've got. Then we've got high interest, low power. So these are usually supporters. So these people, you kind of just keep them informed. You consult them if it's an area of interest to them. They can be supporters. I mean, if you get them on your side, then they'll actually push to help you achieve your objectives. And then finally, we have key player. These are the advocates. So these are high power, high interest people. So you've got to be fully engaged with them. They've got to be as part of the decision-making process all the way through. Their cooperation is crucial. There we go. Sorry about And basically, if they're not on board, then again, they can stop anything that's going on. So if you think low priority would be, say you were a events company and you wanted to put on a big festival, then your low priority would kind of be the locals to an extent, like maybe some of the customers, because really it's kind of a low priority for like those people. They don't have any power and they may only have like a general interest. But then the people who are immediately around the festival, so they would have high interest because obviously they would want to know what's going on. They would want to know like kind of what like the traffic's going to be like, what kind of environmental issues there's going to be, but they themselves cannot actually stop your event. Whereas what they could do is then make complaints to their government officials, to their council, and in which case you'd be then looking at the blockers. So the government, the council would be the people who are generally passive. They usually wouldn't take a hand in it, but if they get enough people coming in, then they might actually increase their interest. And they are the people who could block it. I mean, like if it's an events night, then they could not allow like music levels to go over a certain level. They might not allow planning permission for any kind of like event. Right? And then you've got your key players. So these are people like shareholders, stakeholders, the DJs themselves, people who might be working at the company who have a key interest. Okay, so if investors aren't investing, if companies aren't sponsoring, then they could be the ones who actually stop your festival from getting off the ground. So influence of stakeholders. So managers' influence and owners' influence. So here, I mean like managers themselves. So managers influence the activities of the business by making decisions to help it to achieve the objectives the owners have set. So the level of influence of a manager varies, depends on their authority from the owner. So for example, top managers can overrule decisions of managers below them in an organization. So, I mean, like, this is the kind of thing that they do. They are making the key choices. Now, owners are very similar in that they are making, again, key choices, and they tend to have a very high level of influence because no one else in the business has the authority to overrule them. Now, that only works really with sole traders. If you're looking at LTDs or PLCs, then again, you're looking at shareholders mostly. So, stakeholder influences. You've got employee influence. So we've got like it can be positively influencing. So I mean like hardworking employees would support decisions of the owners and management. They're the ones who would be able to be gotten on board. You might look at combining it with paternal or democratic or laissez-faire management styles. They can have a serious influence though, in that if they feel that they are being hard done by, then it could lead to industrial action. So think of like any kind of strikes that they might like go on, or they might like sort of take a different route or not follow procedures properly. The government, so their influence is the activities of business by making laws. So they are able to actually influence like the way that a business will run simply through like things like tax rate or tariffs. And it has a serious effect. But while they have got, high power, they're not necessarily going to have that high an interest. They're not going to take such an interest on individual companies. So if you look at government has high level of influence because businesses will end up in court facing penalties if they don't do what they are told. But are they going to be that interested in an individual company until they've started doing that? Then we've got banks. So these can be positive, so they can like influence a company through lending enough money at reasonable rates of interest. So they can make sure that like if a company does want to expand, then they're able to actually give them the money to help them. But this could be negative in the fact that if they are charging too high a rate of interest, if they don't feel that the company is in a secure enough position, then they might not lend them any money in the first place. Whereas customers, this is positive influences because they will come and vote with their feet. They will come in, they will actually spend the money, use more of the goods, more of the services. Or it could affect it negatively. So especially if like, say a company is decided that they are not going to be as environmentally friendly anymore, then customers may actually decide that we are not going to shop there anymore. So if you look again at the palm oil advert that has recently been on, that was Iceland, and it has been banned, then a lot of customers now are actually thinking that they're going to go and use Iceland because they have removed palm oil, which obviously is environmentally friendly, is helping to save orangutans, is stopping the destruction of the rainforests. So they're going to try and step in and maybe take that over. Whereas a lot of people won't care. So they may not bother actually changing just because of something along the lines of environmental issues. It all depends on people's individual choices. Okay, the suppliers have positive influence because they might be providing the resources they need for production. So if they are able to give them good deals, or they're always supplied themselves, whereas it could be negative because they might not be providing it. So again, if they're not paying if companies aren't paying their bills on time, then they might lose their credit. If they are not ordering enough, or another supplier comes along and offers a better deal, then they may be taken up on that. Where the local community can be positive because they're the ones who are supporting them through the media, through good reviews, not just being customers, but might actually be quite popular, might find the business to be quite popular just with their ideals and beliefs, like having them in the area. They bring, if a company has a large manufacturing firm, then the shops around it will love it because that will give people jobs and more money into the economy of that particular area. So they'll obviously benefit from it. Whereas if it's negative influence, then it could be through pressure groups. So again, going back to environmental issues or going through any kind of government group, then they could put massive amounts of pressure on. Again, putting people in the media. Look at fracking over in Yorkshire and in Lancashire. Now, then we've got a lot of pressure groups. So people are making sure that these companies have been known to be doing something wrong, and making sure that people are not forgetting the reasons that these people are protesting. So really, how do stakeholders affect aims and objectives? So the business need to try and keep everybody happy, or at least as many people happy as they can. Key players must be the happiest. So those who have got higher influence, high power, and high interest are the ones who have to be dealt with first. But you do need a good balance between the others. So you can't just ignore anyone. If you ignore people, then you may actually find that it will work in detriment to what you are trying to achieve as a business. Stakeholders can push their interest forward, stakeholders can push their interest forward as the most important. Right, so benefits. So you can use the opinions of the most powerful stakeholders to shape your projects at the early stage. So it makes it more likely that they'll support you, and their input can improve the quality of your project. These are usually going to be people who have got some degree of expertise in that field. They might be able to help. Gaining support from powerful stakeholders can help you to win more resources. So again, it is more likely that you're going to have the project succeed. You're going to have people who are in your corner and will help you to do what you need to do for your business. And by communicating with stakeholders early and frequently, you can ensure that they fully understand what you're doing and understand the benefits of your project, and means that they will support and not oppose you. Finally, you can anticipate what people's reactions to your project may be, and build your plan around that to win people's support, making sure that you've got the right media out there, making sure that you've got the right level of support coming in from the local communities, etc. Okay, so advantages really. You get to know your stakeholders better, you can manage your relationships better, much better strategies and decisions, and then greater acceptance of organization. Right? So those are all the benefits, but the disadvantages is that this is a continuous process. It's something you need to keep doing over and over and over again. Right? You need to also work out whether your assessment is subjective. So do you think that particular stakeholders don't like your company, and then are already just sort of made up their minds about it, well, that might not be very fair on you, and it might not be very fair to put them into like one bucket as well. And not all interests can be met at the same time. You do need to find that balance first. Okay, influences. So there are a range of influences on how much power and influence stakeholders have on a business. So influences include the extent to which stakeholders have power within the organization. The higher up you are, the more influence you have got. How much control the stakeholder has over resources. So if it's a head of department, if it's a supervisor, or if it's finance, then they are going to have, again, a lot more control. How involved they are with the decision-making process. So even though they might have all this power, but they might not actually have a lot of say in what is going on. So like finance are the people who control like how much money the operations management do, but they're not really going to tell them, well, okay, so which system is going to be the best. Just financially, they would have to look at, again, what the choices of operations are. If the stakeholder has any specialist knowledge, skills, or expertise, so then they would become experts in their field and they'll be able to help you. Have needs and wants that are similar to other stakeholders. So again, pressure groups might be quite similar to local communities, so therefore they can actually combine their forces. Are external or internal to the organization. So internal tend to have a little bit more power, although external at the top end really do have like that actual power. And then finally, are direct or indirect. So are they actually affected by any of the decisions or not? Right, okay, thanks very much for watching. Now, for more information, make sure you hit the like button and the subscribe button. And please leave any constructive criticism below and I will come back to it. Now, this was the final video in Unit 2. So, final video, Unit 2, Management, Leaderships and Decision Making. If there are any other areas that you would like me to focus on or create another video around, again, leave that in the comments below and I will see whether I can get back and help you. All right, thank you very much, folks. Bye.